Hey there everybody, and welcome back to Sasquatch Speaks. This is Sasquatch, otherwise known as Gavisas, welcoming you all once again to this dark little corner of the internet, which is so affectionately referred to as our own. On today's episode, I have a few things that I would like to get done. First of all, I'd like to inform everyone that I will be returning probably sometime next week to a thematic format for at least a few episodes. I have one that I've just been kind of avoiding, and probably just get it out of my notebook at this point. It's been in there for a couple months. I just need to bang it out and be done with it, and then it'll stop bugging me, and I can just move on with my life. It'll be wonderful. Yay! Wonderful. Anyway, just letting you all know that I have a couple of thoughts and stuff I may start doing a little differently with these Sasquatch Speaks, or maybe even do kind of a spin-off series sometimes, maybe. Not really sure how I'm going to work that in. Just informing you all that there may be some changes coming, which you may or may not like, and we'll find out in the future, and we'll decide whether or not I care if you like it or not in the future. That's just kind of how that goes. Yeah, sorry, I'm not very, I don't know. I'm not easily moved by the opinions of others, but I suppose if everyone goes, "This is terrible," well, then, then that's one thing, and I'll tell you, I might just go, don't watch it, or I don't know. We'll find out. Like I said, I don't mean to come off as hostile or anything towards you, the viewers, because you're the ones who make this all work and come together and actually mean something, but in general, I don't really care that much about what people think of me or my ideas or anything like that. So, with that being the case, here is today's topic. Today's topic, ironically, after all that, and I didn't mean to get to that point, but here we go. Today's topic is very simple, and it's just a very simple phrase that may get some flack, but that's okay. Don't mind. To wit, just because you are right does not mean that anyone will agree with you. Just straight up. As much as we might think or even know, without a shadow of a doubt, that what we are believing in or what we have specifically assigned to ourselves as I believe this, or I know this, or I can prove this, doesn't mean anybody at all is going to believe with you. And I know everyone who's watching this is going, "Oh no, he's about to go on some sort of religious tirade, or he's going to talk about money again. I can't stand it when he does that." Don't worry, I might get there, but that's not where we're going to start, so you don't have to click away from the video quite yet. But my case in point would be the great astronomer from several hundred years ago, Galileo. Galileo created his telescope, looked up into the sky, and for the first time, well, actually there's another guy before him, but for the first time that they teach children in school, or at least in my school, which may indicate why I'm not so smart. There's a thought. And no, I don't know what the other guy's name was, because they didn't teach me that. I just found out that there was another guy much later. But Galileo took his little telescope, incredibly powerful little telescope, looked up into the sky, and said, "We are not the center of the universe, and I can prove it by just letting you look through my little telescope here." And everyone else around him, although it would have been a very simple thing to just, look through his little telescope and then look at his mathematical drawings and hypotheses and proof. No. You're full of it, Galileo. It was such an egregious thing to the minds of the people at that time to assume anything other than that they occupied the exact center of the universe, that Galileo's outstanding scientific discovery was not only rejected, spurned, mocked, but he himself was persecuted and thrown into prison because he found out the truth. Specifically at that time, that we, humanity, planet Earth, not even our great solar system, are the center of the universe. How incredibly relatable it is sometimes. Not even in the big things. Like I said, I'm going to try my best to stay away today from religion and money, because, those are kind of the big ones that everyone fights about sometimes, and especially me, because I have some very strong opinions on both of them, but that's for another time, another place. But just little things. I have a very lawyeristic mentality, so when I am engaged in conversation with somebody, I am constantly looking for ways to pick apart the words that are being said to me. It's undoubtedly a character flaw, and something which drives most of the people who I talk to absolutely crazy. They hate it when I begin to pick apart their speech, their words, their thoughts, their ideas, and declare them to be nothing but bullcrap, or show up their imperfections in logic. But the simple fact of the matter remains that they are imperfections in logic. A particularly good example. And I will not use names. Of course I'm not going to use names. This is the internet. Never name anybody on the internet. Just a bad idea. But, yes. There is a person, I know, who refuses, and I do mean adamantly refuses. The very mention of doing this will elicit an emotional response of a most volatile nature that you can barely even fathom to understand that it comes from a functioning, or at least semi-functioning adult. And it makes me question every time I see this response. Specifically, this response is to suggesting, in passing, that the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy is a sufficiently good collection of works as to be recommended for their viewing. I know it's stupid. It's absolutely ridiculous, but it is still the case. Specifically, if you are to say, hey, this is a great movie, this is a great series of movies, start doing impressions, you look nervous. All those lovely little lines, the quotable... Okay, slight aside. This might be akin to blasphemy to people of the movie scene, but I would tend to equate the Christopher Nolan Batman movies as very similar to the millennial generation's Godfather. And I don't mean in terms of story. I mean, yes, it's crime and punishment and people doing wrong things and being corrected for them, or the fall of decadence, or whatever it is that you want to attribute to story. Not talking about story at all. I'm talking just with the simple fact that just about everybody has seen one or all of them, and as a result of having seen one or all of them, can quote a vast amount of its dialogue, even with only having seen them one or two times. I have seen them more than one or two times, which is probably why I'm so weird. But to that end, I find them very, very similar to, like I said, the Godfather films, with the level of quotability of these movies. If for no other reason than The Dark Knight with Heath Ledger's Joker, and basically every single line that he delivers. The disappearing pencil trick, the raid on the donator's party, hit me, come on, I want you to do it, I want you to. Just everything in that movie is so quotable. I find it very, very similar to, or an equivalent to the millennial generation's Godfather films, just with the incredibly high number of quotable lines, which are, in fact, worked into most of everyday's lives. I mean, you see someone who's really just in a bad mood or incredibly sad or something, it's not uncommon at all for me to hear my friends walk up to the person and go, hey, why so serious? And it's like, in that context, a very caring thing sort of thing, but it's still a harkening back to that film and the lines used to portray it, which were geniusly written. But yes, that's not really the point of today. The point of today is they are incredibly good. They're not by any means the best movies ever made. They have their flaws, and many of them. But they are still incredibly good, to the point that they are, in my opinion, very much akin to this generation's Godfather in terms of quotability. But this unnamed person, if recommended to them that they view these films just simply as a film, not because they're Batman or anything else, just because they are well constructed, for the most part, refuses. And when asked to give a reason why, if they say, I just have no reason, I don't want to, that's one thing. Okay, you don't want to. That's a reason. I can accept that. But the reasons given are so inane as to be incoherent. I'm having difficulty finding words to say in this instance which are accurate without being descriptive of the person. Because they have a few catchphrases and things which they apply to most of the things that they don't want to do that tend to identify them to people that I know who may or may not actually be watching this episode right now. So I have to be very careful with the words that I choose to relate here. One of them is that, they don't like all that blood and gore, and if anyone has actually seen the Dark Knight trilogy, there is no blood and gore. It's implied, certainly. You want to know how I got these scars? I mean, it's implied. We know what happened, but it's never shown. Also, I would throw in a very good tip of the hat to those films, that they didn't give in to the temptation to use that. They made good films without having to throw that in. And they also, to the best of my knowledge, it may have been somewhere in there that I just completely missed somehow, but to the best of my knowledge, there's no profanity in those movies either. Now, that's not to say that they're necessarily children's material, but I have a great deal of respect for the creators of those films, that they looked at them and they said, these things aren't necessary, and they still turned out fantastic work. I give them a good applause. Well done, sirs, well done. So this person's argument is nullified. And they say, well, okay, well then, I just don't like Batman. Well, that's okay. You don't like Batman. Well, we're not asking you to watch it for Batman's sake. I mean, there's good movies. It doesn't have to be like Batman. Like Winter Soldier. It's about Captain America. He's in there, as well as a couple of the other Avenger members. Nick Fury and Black Widow, and it's like, okay, they're there. It's a Marvel movie, no doubt about that. It has Hydra in it and S.H.I.E.L.D., but even without those elements, it's still a pretty good spy flick. They just happen to have a couple people running around with superpowers. It's like, okay, this is still a pretty good movie. There's a lot of intrigue and backdoor dealings and the whole agency within an agency plot line. It's like, oh man, this is actually pretty cool. Same thing with the Dark Knight trilogy. They're a depiction of good versus evil, and of various forms of good versus evil. They're just good movies on the whole. So it was to say, well, because Batman is in there, it ruins it for me. Well, that's very small-minded, and you probably should get yourself checked out for that, because it just doesn't seem like a rational argument to the rest of us. And there's a great many other things that I am trying very hard not to say, because, like I said, they would describe this person in explicit detail to some of the people who watch this, who know either personally or know of this individual. But I find it interesting that even when you can quantifiably prove that you are right, that words coming from your mouth are true, that Not everyone, in fact, no one may believe you. No one may agree with you. Like I said, Galileo, he could prove it. He had the mathematical models. He had his telescope to show people. And he was thrown in prison. Just because they didn't want to acknowledge that he could be right. That they were not the center of the universe. Just think about it. Consider it for a moment. Are the things that you know you're right about that people just absolutely will not agree with you? Are there things that other people are right about that you may know, in fact, they are correct, that they are right? That for no other reason to be contrarian, you choose to not agree with them. There's picking on people, and I understand that. And there are things that are small, it doesn't matter. But some of the things are big, and they do have long-lasting consequences. What is the truth? How do we find it? How do we quantify it? How do we convey it to others? And, most importantly, how do we coerce people? Coerce is a bad word, but there's really no other word for it. How do you convince people? I guess there is another word. My mistake. How do you convince people of its validity? That the truth is the truth above all else, and opinion should not matter in the face of it. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. If you did enjoy, let me know down below. It'd be very much appreciated. If you have any thoughts or comments or things or situations where people are just open-facedly denying the truth, feel free to leave a comment down below to let me know all about it. If you didn't enjoy this, if you think I'm just a long-winded blowhard, please leave a dislike rating on a nasty comment telling me to stop trying to impose my version of truth on you. And yes, I will see you all next time. Goodbye.